Hey guys, welcome to Layman's Terms Podcast, a place where we talk about really big topics using the smallest words possible. I'm Danny the bartender.
And I'm Tommy the trash man.
And together we're just two guys trying to explain the ever-changing world around us the only way that we know how. And today is a special day because we have a guest.
Yeah, so with everything that's going on in the world, I think we could all use a little bit of positivity. You know, we've been all stressing out over COVID and politics and all that. So I stumbled across our next guest, author Kira Lyn Barnett. In her journey to becoming an author, she has received impulses from the universe to serve others. And along this journey, she has discovered the more we give, the more we receive. With her book, Intuition is Simple, Barnett hopes to spread positivity and joy into the world and help readers change the way they look at life, looking within themselves. So welcome to the show, Kira.
Welcome, Kira.
Thank you.
So
happy
again, yes, great. We're happy to have you. So again, with everything the craziness that's going on in the world, now you just released this book. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so I wrote this book about 2 years ago, and it's really just about intuition and your inner guidance. Inner guidance is something that we all have, but we all don't realize that we have it because we tend to listen to the outside world, our environment, you know, how we're raised, pick up habits from that, and we kind of lose that. We lose who we truly are. So for me, I was at a place in my life where I was always seeking for something. It was like, why am I can't find that happiness within? Maybe another job. Do I need to move? Do I need this? Do I need that? And it was like, I couldn't find that peace within myself, that I always had those heavy emotions, carrying those heavy, low energies. So I stumbled across meditation, which to me at the time was like, meditation, like, what is this? Like, I'm not doing this. Like, this is not me. This is weird, right?
Right.
So, and people that I knew and how I was raised, meditation, nobody even heard of this. So, but it piqued my interest. I was curious about it. I was like, wait, there's something to this. Like, I'm researching it, and I was like, I have to try this. Like, I have to do this. It makes sense. You're quieting your mind, right? So I started meditating. Like, I did it, and I had a family, I had kids, and it was very hard. Like, I found myself hiding it from people. So like my family, nobody knew. I was like in the corner meditating, doing all this stuff. So so I started meditating, and things were changing. I was changing. It was like I was becoming calmer, more relaxed, and I wasn't doing it consistently. I was just kind of dabbling in it a little bit in the beginning. But the more I did it, the more I realized how much it was helping me, like in so many aspects of my life. But I also noticed a lot of other things though too. So when you start meditating, you also start bringing up emotions from your past and things that may have been sitting with you for a while. So you're becoming who you truly are when you start meditating. A lot of people don't realize that. You're literally going within yourself, and you're changing yourself. So I had to accept that. I had to be ready to go into the unknown almost. So you're leaving your past behind you in a way. And it's not who you truly are though. That's the thing. Like it was like I was a product of my environment. You know, I was a mom, I was a wife, I was a people pleaser. I was always like, I was always doing too much for other people. So in the beginning of my journey, I was bringing up all these emotions, and I got to a point where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to meditate. Like, I don't want to be this person. And it's because it was scary. The unknown is scary. So at one point I kind of like almost stopped, and my life in 2 years has changed completely. Like, I was married, and I never see myself leaving, you know, my ex now husband. I never see myself leaving him because it was comfort. and it was scary to be in the unknown, or what my life, or can I do this on my own?
Right.
So, but with the help of meditation, I was able to do that. It was like my own support system, but it really was just me. I was able to get stronger and become more independent, and become like, find that strength within to be able to do the things that I needed to do with my life. So when I look at myself from 2 years from now, from today, like, I can't even believe how I'm here. And if it wasn't for meditation, I would not be able to be here today.
That's awesome.
Without a doubt. Yeah. And that inner guidance, so we say. So
Yeah. Well, I know one thing, as Danny and I have talked about on this show, discussing politics, we definitely can understand hiding things from friends and family, and not feeling like you can speak your mind and be openly who you are.
yes.
Well, I guess I have a thought too. Like, when you were saying you dug down inside yourself and you go through like your past, but it's not really who you are and stuff. And I had a couple experiences where I was able to let go of some things. I didn't search for it. I didn't meditate to do it, but it was like I identified a problem that I didn't know was actually the problem. If this makes sense to you.
Uh-huh.
Does that make sense? Like,
It does.
I realized that there was a reason for my behavior, and it didn't necessarily stop the behavior, but it let me realize and understand why I was making certain choices, and that even if I chose to make the choice, I like identified the problem, and I felt that was a very freeing experience for me.
Yes. Yes. So like releasing that. And that's very similar. And another thing about meditation is that I try to like tell people, because I feel like the word meditation, people are just like, what meditation? And it's not, it's really, all it is just, it's calming your mind. So you're just sitting in quiet, and you're just not thinking. You're training yourself not to think so much, because that's what we do. We think, like, we constantly think, we're constantly overthinking, and then we get to that point, and then that fear kicks in, and we're afraid to do it. So intuition is like that instant knowing, all right, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it now. But what we do to ourselves is we talk ourselves out of it. Yeah. And then we don't do those things that we should do, that keep us on our path, Well,
when you were saying too, like, you're always looking for that next job or that next thing, or it's never enough. And like, I find that in a lot of things that I do, where it's like, you keep creating these, like, I guess, like, obstacles in a sense, by saying, well, when I get this, and then I need to do this. And I don't do it. I'm not saying I understand it. I'm saying that for me, it's like I create these obstacles where everything's always relying on the next thing instead of just living in the moment.
Exactly. And that is another thing that's so powerful, living in the moment. And that's hard for people to do. And it was hard for me to live in that present moment, but not only live in that present moment, but be happy in that present moment. So yeah, you can be in that present moment, but you can be miserable in it, and nothing's going to change in your life. But until you can get to a place in your life where you're happy with where you are, and you can find the happiness in that now moment, your life completely changes. And I think of myself from a month ago to even a month from now, of how different the present moment is, and how the more you're more content with who you are, and you love yourself, and you do calm your mind every day, you do raise your energy up, and you get more positive, and you do learn to be happy in the now, to be able to bring more good into your life.
So Bender, I'll give you a little bit of credit, because I know a lot of people often talk about change, and they say, if I just maybe start over in a new state, if I get married, certain different things. And you're the type of person, Bender, like, you've actually gotten up and you moved to Florida to kind of, you needed a change in your life. And you did that without kind of meditation and things like that, where a lot of people don't. So I guess my question, Kira, is like, so meditation is the beginning step, but like, what even brought you to that? Because obviously meditation alone you have to take some action in your life.
Yeah. So for me, it was like I felt like I had a purpose and I wasn't serving it. So
Okay.
I truly felt like there was like this fire within me that wasn't getting expressed. Like that's the only way I can explain it. And so I went for the quickest thing, and it was like meditation. So I'm going to meditate and ask what my purpose is. What is my purpose? I need to know what it is. I felt like I wasn't doing. So when I say like, you know, you always trying to seek the next job, blah, blah, blah. For me, like I would be at a job and I would get good at it quick and I would learn it. And I would get so bored. And I was like, oh my God, I just got to get out of here. Like, I need to do more. I need to do something. And you would get bored. And you felt like, again, you were seeking for something else. So maybe I got to look for another job. And for the most part, I felt like I always did get the job. I would always get good at the job, but it wasn't making me happy though. I wasn't happy. Like, what else can I ask for? And not for nothing, I had a really good life. It wasn't like I had a bad life. Like I had a good, you know, my husband was a good guy. I had great kids. I always got the job. People liked me. I was likable. Why wasn't I happy? Why couldn't I find happiness still?
Well, you know, I'm a bartender, and what you just said speaks volumes to me, because it's like I'm pretty good at what I do, and I definitely have, like, you know, kind of soaked up my environment to the point, you know, to full, you know, I basically have a pretty good life. I made pretty darn good money, and a lot of people around me can't understand why I'm not like, why I wasn't like completely content and happy. But the only way I could describe it, when you said you had that like fire inside you, what I would tell people all the time is I feel, and especially imagine I'm behind a bar, so I'm actually contained to an area. And I could only describe how I feel as like I was like an animal in an aquarium. Like I just felt like, you know, I go to work and I'm trapped, and my mind just wants to do so many other things, and I have to sit and kind of try and be in that moment, but I can't.
Yes, I totally relate to that. And the word trapped popped in my head because that's how I always felt. I always felt trapped, whether it was like in my relationship or at my job. And it was like, why, where am I? And why do I feel so trapped? But it's honestly, to me, I feel like you're not serving your purpose, and you're almost not enough for yourself. It's not like I always said, like I always say to my ex, like it wasn't you at all. It was me. Like I wasn't enough for me.
Yeah. Well, me and Tommy hear that a lot too.
Yeah. Wow. Sorry, guys. It's true though, I swear. But that's what it comes down to, you know?
No, and I'll tell you, I will, like, it's the most, for like, I guess even to go into it deeper, it's like in my job, it's like I show up every day. Like I have this feeling about jobs like mine where it's like, there's no tomorrow. It's like you go in and you just restock and you sell what you have. And then the next day you come in and you restock, and there's no fulfillment. And that's how I feel personally. So I don't know how other people feel in their jobs, but there is really this like burning feeling inside me that actually I wish would go away. Like,
yeah,
you know, it ain't like I feel like I need to fulfill something. I just kind of wish that I could stop feeling like that, you know?
No, totally. I get that 100%. And honestly, I truly feel like if you did meditate, you would be able to release those energies. Because I do feel as if when you meditate, you are releasing that energy from your body.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds like it's still sometimes hard for me. I'm getting more comfortable like with talking about it, because I know I'm very down to earth person. Like I am completely like relatable to people. But when I go down to that meditation route, it's like, people are like, really? No, like meditation, you're weird. But it truly does work. Like it makes a difference in your life.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's it.
Well, when Tommy said like I went to Florida and all, and Tom, I'll tell you something, like, and even with what you're saying now, how I think that you're talking about kind of fast tracking it, because I think as we get older, we all start to become a little more comfortable with ourselves. We all
Totally.
like little by little. But the thing is I wish I felt this way when I was 20 years old. And when Tommy said, like, you know, I went to Florida, like as if that's something to commend me on in a sense. but actually it was like an impulsive way to satisfy that feeling of that being trapped, fire inside you. And I felt like, you know, when you said you always want that next thing, you have to go for the next thing. And I felt like I needed to get out of where I was. And what happened was, it was a 5-year process to learn this. But what I learned by going to Florida and then returning back was that my problem wasn't that I needed to up and leave where I was. So this actually goes back to what you're saying, where,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, it took
So,
me
yes,
5
I get
years
what
to
you're
figure
saying.
something out I could have figured out right away.
Yeah.
Well, here's, and the reason why I give you credit is because a lot of people feel this way. I mean, I know, speaking from myself personally, like, I feel the same way. And there has been times throughout my life that I figured, maybe if I just move to another state and start a new life and get a new job or meet the right woman, I'll feel more comfortable. I'll feel more at ease or at peace. And at least for you, and I also had, a friend of mine who was kind of like tired of life and got up and moved to Texas for a little bit. Now, a lot of people won't do that. And at least for you, that was a learning experience to kind of like say, okay, I did that and it still didn't change me. There's a lot of people there's still a lot of people that live like myself. Like, I never got up and actually moved to figure that out on my own. Like, okay, wait, this isn't what's going to help. You know what I mean? So that's why I give you credit for, at least you had the balls to get up and do it to see.
Yeah. And I guess the thing is, though, and you're 100%, this is, I guess, what I think makes it so much more to understand with what she's saying about like meditating too, is like, I had to do that. And yes, you're right. Even to this day, my brain has eliminated one of those thoughts, going back to where I said you kind of identify the problem in a sense. And it's like, now I know that, you can do whatever you need to do where you are. You don't need to go somewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so I guess, if these are things that we're all going to naturally eventually kind of do, but I guess with like meditation or whatever, if you could just always just, there's other things. And I think, I'm glad I went to Florida. I just wish I didn't have to do a 5-year process to learn what I learned,
Yep.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess Kira, so with meditating, a lot of people, and especially in times like these, you'll see people turn more to God and become a little bit more religious.
Yep.
And because times are so difficult, people are constantly searching, like, for answers. Why am I losing my job? Why? Like, because especially with social media, like we've talked about on this podcast multiple times, and, the effects that it has on your psyche, especially now, being cooped up in the house and you're living vicariously, through other people, and then you become more depressed.
Yes.
So
Yep.
I guess, what was it, of all the things that we go through and experience, what kind of was like, okay, I need to meditate, as opposed to turning to church or to turning to, to some people turn to drugs, unfortunately, and, other things.
So to me, that's all still a seeking. Like, when you're turning to drugs to ease the pain, or you're turning to, the church, which isn't a bad thing. But for me, meditating was more of a thing where you're going to yourself. You're not looking for anything outside of you. It's up to me to change. It's up to me to change my life and to be happy and to find that peace within. So I'm not going to, go back to those old routines and old habits of, all right, well, let me just plan something for the weekend so I can get excited for it. Let me plan a vacation and look forward to that. Like, I don't do that anymore. Like, nothing, what happens when you start doing that, you don't get like that excitement that you used to. It's just, things just kind of happen as they happen. So It's not like, oh my God, I can't wait for this vacation. Oh my God, I can't wait. And then you're thinking while you're on that vacation, oh my God, this vacation's almost over. Like, I have to go back home. You don't do that anymore. And like work, like I used to dread it. Like I would be like, when's Friday going to get here? When's Friday? I truly don't do that anymore. It's just, oh, tomorrow's Friday. Oh, okay. Like someone will say at work. But not only that, like there's so many things I can go on with this. When you change yourself and you raise your energy to be a more positive, it gets more positive and you get more like, I say the word vibration, but it's the same thing, raising your energy to more positive. People change around you. So I've watched people in my life that are closest to me change and become more positive and become more happy and more like around me. And they know like, and not only when you're meditating, you also have to learn how to not react to life also. So yeah, I can meditate. I can be in a meditation. My kid could be knocking on the door and I could be like, get the heck out of here. Like you're screaming at your kid and you're meditating. You're trying to be calm and raise your energy to be a better person. But here I am yelling at my kid. So you have to like also learn how to do those things too. You have to learn how to not judge people, stop complaining, stop, if you're driving and someone cuts you off, stop screaming at them. And you have to learn how to just not be that person, that reactive person, that we all are.
You also said earlier that you used to really care about pleasing people around you.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to ask you this question, and I feel like you went through this because I went through this. And again, this was something that I just did on my own, but I realized that I'm constantly trying to please people around me, and something inside me was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that anymore. And I lost a lot of friends when I did that. And I has that anything that happened to you like that? Like where, in other words, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I realized that I don't care about the people I lost.
No, I know what you're saying. So when you start, I noticed a lot of people that exited my life as I was meditating. I noticed that they were a lot of people that were not able to keep up with my energy. So my belief, and I think everything is a belief, so that's getting into other things. I have written other books that maybe get a little bit deeper and a little bit like off this subject, so I don't want to kind of get off this subject. But when I've just now kind of gotten rid of the people pleasing. And I didn't do it until I was raising my energy and able to do it in a way where I didn't really lose those relationships and people still respected me.
Okay.
So I was doing it at an energy of, I don't want to say power, but like where I would say, no, I would talk to my boss and I would say, I can't stay past this time anymore because I have to get home and take care of my kids. Do you know what I mean?
Well, we're on the same page because that's kind of what I'm talking about, where it was like, I always took somebody's shift. No problem. You want to leave me here. And then the minute I became the guy that was like, no, I got something to do at 10 o'clock, so I'm leaving. And, it just like, I really dampened some relationships. But so I also get what you're saying too. I feel like maybe I failed that experiment because maybe I still wasn't doing it correctly.
You were holding on to anger while you were doing it. Yeah. And I noticed the difference of when I would do it like that. So when you're doing it out of like frustration because you're just sick of it and you're tired of being walked all over, it doesn't come off right. And in your mind, you're like, they're talking about me, they're mad at me. So you're still hanging on to those lower energies. But when you do it at a different, like at a higher energy of more out of, I guess you could say loving, you're like, just listen, I'm looking out for me right now and I can't do this anymore. I love you guys, but I can't stay past this time. I got looked at totally different and I'm actually pushed out the door at 4:30 now. They're like, get out of here. You can't stay.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's just everything changes in your life. And it's like, I just want people to really be able to know what this does for you. And I get it. It's hard at first. It's hard to meditate. It's hard to I was making excuses. I don't have time to do this. I can't do this. But I'm telling you, if people realize the power behind it, I'm telling you, everybody would do it. Everybody would do it.
I'm going to start doing it.
You have to. It's like, it's a game changer.
Well, so I guess a few years ago, one of the biggest things that came out from Oprah when she mentioned The Secret. Yeah. So that's widely successful book. And I actually read it. So that's all about, putting your thoughts out in the universe and visualizing, what you want. So, writing down that you want to become the CEO of Best Buy, or writing down that you want to spend more time with your kids, or one of those things, and seeing it and visualizing it, putting out into the universe.
Okay.
Is there a difference between that approach to things that you're saying?
Yeah. So for me with that, and I kind of just watched that quickly. I didn't watch it thoroughly, but I noticed that with me and the things that I wrote, I never really got into that creating your own reality. I kind of think that in order to get to that point, you have to raise your energy. You have to meditate. So I kind of don't, not that I don't like The Secret, because I think it does relate to what I believe in. It's like kind of the law of attraction.
Right.
But I don't think you should even tap into that until you raise your energy and you know what you want. Because that's another thing. You can be sitting there. First of all, you have to understand how meditation works, and how, like, when you're meditating and you're raising your energy, like, and you're asking for things, like, what are you asking for? What do you want with your life? You know, like me meditating 2 years ago, I didn't even think about that. Like, I didn't even know what I really truly wanted. I just knew that I wanted to be happy. So to me, I don't think that's as important. Maybe down the road, yeah, you can start, like, because you get clearer and you know what you want. So in the beginning, I didn't really even know what I wanted, but now I know what I want to do. Like, I want to teach people about meditation. But in the beginning, 2 years ago, I didn't know what I really wanted to do with my life. I just knew that I needed to be happy and fulfilled. I needed to find that happy, that passion, that fulfillment.
Right. Was there ever a moment when you were like, maybe I should see a therapist and
Yes,
medication?
100%, yes. So I always called myself, even before meditation, like, I always said I was my own therapist.
Right.
So in my book, I talk a little bit about my life. Like, I didn't have like this perfect childhood. My parents were split up. My dad was a drug addict. I was actually bullied as a kid. All throughout school, I was completely quiet and I never said a word. I never spoke in front of class. I don't know how I got away with it, but I never had to do a presentation. I always hid in the back. So my story kind of is funny because I always said I was my own therapist. Through all my childhood and all the things that I went through, I was able to solve and figure out how to get so I always kind of looked at the glass half full. I was always pretty positive. So it makes sense of where I am at today, and what my purpose is to help people, uplift people, and to teach them and help them know that you can overcome anything. So I don't forget what was the question. Yeah. So therapy. Yeah. So at one point in my meditation, I remember thinking I was crazy.
Right.
Because what happens is you're releasing, like, your old self, your ego, as people would say, and you're like going crazy, literally. And I was actually looking for people. Like, I was like, okay, spiritual. Should I look for a spiritual person? Should I go to an actual therapist? And I ended up not doing any of that. And I said, just relax. You're fine. Like, talking to myself. And you just got to get through this hump. It's because you're literally stepping out of your comfort zone. You're stepping out of that program, as I would call it, because we're all in a program. We're all programmed to be a certain way. And we get sucked in by social media. We get sucked in by the news. We get sucked in by other people, and we care about what everybody thinks instead of just living our true self, our life. So I had to be able to just let all that go, which took a while for me to do that. 2 years doesn't sound like a long time, but when I look back and to think of all the stuff that I had to shed and I had to release, it is a lot, because it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, and you also offer a course?
I do, yes. So on my Facebook page, I have a course that you could do either 60 or 90 days. And it's about 50 videos of just step-by-step on, it kind of makes it easier for people to understand on how to, because like I said, meditation, yes, I teach about that, but there's more to it than that. Like, just how we react to life, and how you have to love yourself. Like, as silly as it sounds, like, you have to look in the mirror and say, like, I'm awesome. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people don't want to do that, but you have to do that, because some of us, we don't love who we are.
Right.
We look in the mirror and we're like, I don't like this person. But so I have all those things on there. And then I do a Zoom once a week also with questions, and then a meditation, a good, powerful meditation that I picked up that completely changed my life. And then I give a lot of stuff on there about, like, people that I followed, a couple YouTube videos that are pretty, strong in my life that I've used to, like, go back on. So yeah, so that's kind of what I have on there.
Well, we'll
just
put
to
all
help
that.
people.
If you send me everything too, we'll put all that like in the bio of the or in the description of the video and of the podcast as well.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
But
I'll post this video on there too.
cool. Well, when you were saying the thing about like, you got to be yourself, and another little thing I went through, like even with growing my hair and stuff, it was like I felt like I was always trying to be something that I wasn't. And so I would get my hair cut just like everybody else, same little haircut or whatever. And I always started to realize that some of the things I didn't like in my life were, it was like, when your hair got a little too long to do and you're trying to do it and it's a little embarrassing because it's too long. I know this sounds dumb, but
No, it doesn't. Honestly, it doesn't.
so what started to happen with me where I actually was the happiest I ever was, and I guess the way I could describe it is that I tell people is like, when you go to like a wedding and you look over and there goes like the crazy uncle and he's wearing a fucking Hawaiian shirt and like everyone in that room is kind of laughing at him. And I started to realize like he's the only guy who's fucking seriously happy. Excuse my language.
Right? No, you're so right.
Yeah. And so what happened was I just stopped caring about like, if I go to a nice restaurant, I don't dress. So what I say to people is, I'm not saying I dress like a slouch because I don't feel like it, because if you then dress in a way you didn't want to dress, you would then again feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I do everything that I do. I go in the way that I want to, and I don't let any outside thought
That's awesome.
go on it. Does that make sense though?
Yes, that makes complete sense.
Yeah,
and that's awesome that that's something you picked up just on your own, like you realize like, I'm not trying to please anyone else.
Yeah.
I just want to be comfortable. And when you're able to do that, you don't look at yourself in the mirror and judge yourself a million times because you're comfortable with how you look and who you are.
Well, I also realize is like, say you're going to that wedding, like I'm that theoretical wedding that I'm talking about. And, you're dressing up and you're trying to dress a certain way for somebody else. And I feel like what happens is when you're unsuccessful at it, is when you start to feel uncomfortable. But the only reason why you feel uncomfortable is because you're trying to do something that isn't you. And then therefore you don't really fit in and you're actually just your best if
making
you just,
it worse.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. You're like, you're thinking more about it when you're not yourself.
Yeah.
I'd
rather be comfortable and be me than be slightly uncomfortable trying to be something else, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Because then you can relax and be yourself.
Yeah.
And
if you have, I guess, I think that the only thing that I actually pride myself in is who I am. I mean, like, I don't think I'm the best looking guy, the best fit guy, best whatever, but I'm not afraid of sharing my personality. You know what I mean? So
yeah. And that shows like, through that when you are yourself like that, people respond to that, people resonate with that,
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, and that's one compliment that we've gotten from a few people that one person that I reached out to check out the podcast, that she was like, well, your friend seems authentic. And then I was like, wait, do I not say like,
well, Tom, I think you'll go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, but I'm like, I could totally relate. And maybe I'm not, because like, as you were talking about your hair, I'm like, fuck, man, I haven't gotten a haircut in like 2 weeks now. That's like past my, I usually go every 2 weeks. And during quarantine where I didn't get a haircut for like 3 months, I'm like, fuck, man. Like,
dude, I used to get my haircut. Put it this way. I used to get my haircut every week. And if I didn't, I was upset. I haven't had a haircut in like 2 years. And I'm okay with it. I love my hair, so I don't care.
Yeah.
But Tom, I'll say, and I think this speaks for both of us, maybe, maybe not to be too personal or whatever, but it's like the one thing I'll say about a podcast is it has helped me subside some of that, because I have finally found something that I'm okay with the fact that we're not perfect and that we're not where we want to be, but I found something that I can do and that I really enjoy. and that I know I want to do for a long time. Like when we were talking about being a bartender, where it's like, now what? Now what's next? I don't really see that feeling with this. Like, it ain't like, all right, I'm done with this podcast. Now what's next? It's like, I just want to do another podcast. Does that make sense a little
That
bit?
is so awesome that you said that. Cause
And
I actually wrote that down real quick in a star, before I came on here, and it says, you have to be okay with where you are. And the fact that you said that, like, you're not looking for, you don't care if you get 1 million followers or 10 followers.
Yeah.
You're doing it because you enjoy it and you're helping people. You really are. And you have to look at it that way. Like, this is like, you're bringing people on here, you know, to educate people on all different topics. I mean, there's nothing better than that, you know, like, you're getting the word out. And I feel like if you stay consistent with something you love, you'll see changes. You just, like you said, you have to be happy with where you are, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one thing that, you know, we strive for, is authenticity. I mean, a lot of the things we say sometimes come across, probably for some listeners, a little controversial, but it's like, look, we can't bite our tongue. If that's the way we feel, we have to kind of say it.
Yeah.
And, you know, for me, and dealing with that struggle for years, because I mentioned about work. I'm not in love with my job, but it's kind of one of those things where it pays the bills. It's a decent job. It allows me free time to kind of do other things. And then when I found the theater, it was like a breath of fresh air. There was something in the theater that I was like, okay, I can express myself creatively now. And that's an aspect of my life that I didn't have, that even at a young age, is something that I kind of always, I felt like I needed in my life. I just didn't really know how to go about it. And now with the lockdowns and not being able to have any theater or anything like that, with the podcast, it's been another breath of fresh air. It's like, okay, now we have something we can kind of get the thoughts that are going through, our heads out, and just kind of like see what happens. And we've been able to talk to some cool people.
Like yourself.
Yeah. And it's definitely a change of pace. I mean, our last couple podcasts have been a little intense with politics and all that stuff.
Like, I almost feel like we needed this.
Yeah, like you're like a therapy session.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like because we were like suicidal at one point.
Oh no, don't say that.
Oh my God.
And I completely do not pay attention to any of that stuff. And it's funny because my work environment that's all they talk about. But right. I'm able to now, like, pretty much not really block it out, but not react to it. So like, I can listen to all that kind of stuff, but I don't react to it. I have my opinions, but I keep most of them to myself, right. And I just kind of like, I'm not going to get into that too much, because I don't want to start reacting. I don't want to go back to that old, program of where, stuff would fuel me and make me angry, because I watch what it does, and that's just not who I want to be, and some people, that's fine. That's where they're at, and that's okay, but that's something that I wanted to step away from myself. So.
Well, it's something that I was thinking about today. I'm always walking the dog, and I'm like just processing all this information in my head. And I was trying to think of situations, like, because I actually kind of gotten a little bit of an argument on Facebook, a little political thing about COVID. And I was like, what even caused me to feel like I needed to comment on it? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And it's part of it's my ego. Like, I kind of want to be like, I know I'm right. Mm-hmm. So then I started going down this rabbit hole of thinking, how do I know I'm right about my beliefs? Everybody believes that they're right on their side, and we could look up things to kind of back up both arguments.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what really is the point to any of it?
Who's right and who's wrong? I mean,
and I'm like, it's just wild, because I was, we've had really heated topics that we've talked about, really, really controversial. And I felt very passionately about the way, and I'm like, I'm right. Like, look, this is, how things should go. And then all of a sudden today, it was this little comment on Facebook. And then I was like, what am I even talking about? Who am I? How do I know that I'm right? And what evidence can I really prove? Like, it's just, I don't know. I don't know if that's really coming across really
I get it.
the right way, but
Yeah, because I feel like that's like, even for me, that's who I used to be. I would just look at something and I'd say, oh, and I would never comment back, but I wanted to so bad at times. I'd say, this part, that's ridiculous. Like that makes no sense. And I just want to be like, well, this is how I feel. And I'd want to type away. And, now I think back to now, like how that stuff, that doesn't even faze me anymore. But it kind of comes down to like, I feel strongly about, I feel like in order to change things in the world today with what's going on, you do really have to change yourself first, and you have to become a better person, and you have to, get rid of those lower negative energies and step out of that program, become whole. And if we all started doing that more, then things would start changing, because I do believe that we're all a collective and we're all connected. And that's why a lot of people believe in this and a lot of people believe in that, because it's all energy. It's all our minds. And like, I don't want to get too deep with all that kind of stuff, but it's a belief. And that's why you have this group of people that believe in this. You have this group of people that believe in this, and in order for us to, become individuals and just have our own thoughts and on things, we have to go within ourselves. We have to become better people, because all that stuff is coming from lower negative energies. Like, not all of it, but most of it is. It's all fighting back and forth. He said, she said, egos, money, power. That's all lower energies. That's old stuff.
Well, let me ask you this question then, because I agree. And Tom, I've had that same like struggle recently, where you said, you're looking and you're like, am I just as bad as these people or whatever? And the one thing I'll say, and I'm not even saying it like as if like I'm arguing my point, but the thing that's making it difficult for me now is I've always been able to just kind of like just keep going the way I'm going, and it's not affecting me. But I'm a bartender, so right now I'm watching people arguing over things that don't pertain to them, but meanwhile I can't go to work. You know what I'm saying? And right. So those kind of things are hard. It's like, I feel, how somebody might say, well, if something's like, I guess the statement I want to make is there's some things going on that are out of my control, let's say. And then it's real easy to say, well, you just got to accept that there's things that are going to happen that are out of your control, but they are kind of in my control in a sense. And you know what I'm saying? So it's making
yes. Because I remember thinking that as I was going through this, like, okay, I'm supposed to just pretend that this crap isn't, my washer's broke right now, and, I don't have a car and I can't get to work. I'm supposed to just pretend that this doesn't like, this isn't in front of my face. But the more I realize that I'm bringing that to me, and that's a hard thing for people to really realize too.
Yeah.
That like, that's where the law of attraction kind of comes in, that we tend to want to be victims, and nobody likes to hear that. But the more you step out of that, first of all, you'll notice that the less those things start happening to you, the more, you raise your vibration, blah, 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 raise your energy. You notice that those things aren't hitting you and they aren't coming to you as much, like those negative things. Not only that, because those things are still going to happen, because it's life and we're human, and we're going to go back to those old things every now and then. It's seriously learning how to deal with them. So it's not looking at them so negatively and getting so angry, and just learning to kind of be like, all right, I got no gas in my car. I got to get home by this time. I got to stop and get gas. It's freaking freezing right now. I don't feel like doing it. But it's learning to be like, oh, well, it's kind of really having to be that way. Like, you just got to be like, oh, well, because if you keep getting angry and you keep repeating those old habits, it's just going to keep happening and happening and happening.
Like it's still not good for you anyway.
Yeah. And it's not.
Regardless of the outcome, that's just not going to help anything.
Yeah. Like, getting angry is not going to help anything. We all know that,
Well, let me ask you a question, kind of like a blanket statement for coronavirus, for what's going on, for lockdown, for, everybody being glued to social media and everything. Mm-hmm. I guess we are talking about meditation, so that would be, I guess, an answer. But like, on a blanket statement for anyone kind of in this environment right now, what would you say would be the best thing? Like, what do you see that other people may not, that you feel like, yo, this is what people need right now?
Yeah. So for me, it's like, it's easy for me to say because I'm in a, like, I don't let it bother me. So I work in the health field. So I could be scared every day going to work, and I could have been, and I didn't stop working through the whole thing. And people would come in and they would say like, oh my God, are you worried? Are you scared? And I would just say, no, I literally, it's a choice. I can choose to be afraid and choose to worry every day, or I can choose not to, and I can choose to just come into work, do my best, wash my hands, wear my mask, follow the rules.
Yeah.
I'm truly not afraid of it. I'm not. That's just, maybe that's just my personality anyway, even without meditation. I never really fear things like that. So for me, if I had to give advice to anyone, and I've had given advice to people that come into my office, and I always just say, you just can't live your life in fear. You can't stop living because of COVID. I mean, you wear a mask and, wash your hands, but you still have to be able to go outside. And if you fear it, you're almost giving yourself the sickness. People are so sick, and it makes them have anxiety, and they worry, and that's with thoughts like they create anxiety, they
Yeah.
create worry. So I feel like for me, I hate to say bring it back to meditation, but just calm your mind, understand that you're going to be okay. We're going to get through this. Know that it's going to get better. It may not seem like it is today, but it is going to get better. It's not going to be here forever. And just do the right thing, wear your mask and wash your hands. I mean, what else can you do?
Yeah. Well, I get what you're saying too, where it's like for me, when I do go to work, I'm like, what the hell? I got to wear this mask. I got to
Yeah,
fucking
I
wash my
hate
hands
it.
every time. But I guess you're right. It's like, well, that's what you got to do. Just do it and just
Yeah.
eliminate all that negativity from it.
Yeah. And just, just don't think about it. Honestly, like that's the best advice I can give anyone. Don't think about it, because if you think about it and you're worrying about it, it's just going to create more anxiety for you, and you're going to be sick to your stomach, and you're going to give yourself COVID when you didn't even catch it from a person.
Yeah.
You gave it to yourself, you know?
Yeah, and that's one thing I was thinking about also today. There was a guy that was a doctor talking about COVID and all the effects, and he was like, look, this is here to stay now. COVID, even with a vaccine, is not going to go away. I mean, this is just something that we're going to have to deal with.
Yeah.
This is something that throughout history, people have dealt with worse plagues.
True.
And they get through it. He was like, unfortunately, I don't think people really realize how long this may take. And he's like, really, the only thing that we can do is just to kind of like take, regular steps, with the mask wearing, the social distancing. He's like, really, that's all we can really do to kind of mitigate the effects of it until eventually after, like he was saying, probably like 2022 or 23. By that point, our
What?
natural, yeah, he was like, it's gonna probably take a while before everybody kind of gets like a natural immunity to it. He's like, and then it's just going to be around like the flu is. He was like, because
Yeah.
even with the flu, there's a vaccine for the flu, but people still get it. Even if you get a vaccine shot, you can still get the flu.
I hope we don't get back pandemics. We're not ready. What if we get another kind of coronavirus after in 2023? We'll be crushed.
Well, considering this one, it really isn't as bad as, like the Spanish flu or the bubonic plague or anything like that. So like, and it's like crippling us, like mentally, and economically, and people are just going crazy.
I think they all need Kira to read her book.
I think so too. Gosh. Yeah. Just ignore it like I do. It'll go away eventually. And that's another thing with meditation. Like I can't tell you the last time I got a headache or a stomach ache.
Yeah.
Like I used to like always get headaches, and I mean, because you're, like I said, you're raising your energy. You're more positive. When you're more positive and you have that, like when you're doing this show, you're at your highest, right?
Yeah.
You feel like $1 million. Like nothing feels better than that. Well, that's what it's like when you're meditating and like you're serving your purpose. So like you're just on that high. It's a constant high. That's what it is.
I vote to replace Dr. Fauci with you. I think
Let's
the
see how
world would
that
be a
works.
better place right now.
Well, for multiple reasons. For multiple reasons too. You're a lot better looking than Dr. Fauci.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, thanks, Tom.
So
Oh, her. Okay.
yeah. Well, both of
I
you
don't know
guys.
what he looks like. I got to see.
He's like an old Italian guy. He's probably like
Okay.
80 years old.
I
So
love the fact that you said that though, because you're probably one of the only human beings that clearly is doing the right thing by not knowing what that man looks like, because it just shows that you're
I
not
just don't.
consumed with it like everybody else.
I know. Like you could say, like some people would say it's ignorance, but for me, it's keeping me happy. So I just choose to stay away.
Ignorance is bliss, right?
Hey, I believe in that. I totally believe in that. I live by it.
and so there was actually, we talked about it on the last podcast because there was a girl that I follow on social media that mentioned, her mother was in the medical field, and since the rise of, COVID and the recent spikes, all that, she was like, what is it? Like, why do you need to go out to a bar or to the restaurant? Like, why can't you just wear the mask? Like, what is it? And how I mentioned on the podcast, for me, I'm a single guy. Like, I have my dog to keep me occupied, and like that's about it. My job, I mean, I'm lucky because I'm still working. But for a lot of people that are in a similar situation, like you said that you have children.
Mhm.
So, that's something that you have to focus your energy on. I'm sure that takes up a lot of your headspace. So for people that don't have a lot going on, how much time can you really spend meditating a day to kind of keep yourself occupied and sane and not pay attention to what's going on in the world?
Yeah, I mean, I personally could probably meditate all day, but I'm also more of an introverted person anyway. I like me time. But there's people out there that are just like, I got to get out. I got to do stuff, I can't. And that's where, I mean, if you're not afraid, then yeah, still do little things and go out with your friends and, like be a normal person. Like don't stay in and, have yourself in a little bubble because you're so afraid. I think you should still live your life. Obviously follow the precautions still. You can still social distance while you're hanging out with your friends, just not a million people. Like some people were having parties.
Yeah.
That just doesn't look right. I mean, again,
Right.
I'm not afraid of it. Like, I don't want to say that I think that that's what's spreading it, because that's what everybody believes. But that doesn't look right. Like, let's just follow the rules and do the right thing, but.
Well, I definitely think that you're giving better advice than Dr. Fauci at this point.
I haven't heard a word he said, so I don't know.
Well, none of it is as positive as that. So
yeah.
That's the problem. We're all focusing on the negative. Well, nothing's going to change if we keep thinking about focusing on the negative crap,
Yeah.
Well, that and full transparency, it would be nice even for our politicians to just kind of like give us all of the details and like not withhold back information. You know what I'm saying? Like if they were just open, like the guy that I was just listening to, he talked about, because some states are not closing, Florida and Texas, they're like, we're not shutting down. So, and there have been all these studies done, there's people that aren't going to the hospitals, to the doctors, because one, they're afraid they're going to get COVID, or two, the hospitals aren't taking patients because they have to worry about COVID. Yeah. So there's a lot of undiagnosed cancer patients and other illnesses of people. Suicide rates are up, depression rates, abuse, domestic abuse, all these things. And he was like, people need to realize they need to weigh the pros and the cons. You know what I mean? Like if we lock down and say we're going to save, I don't know, 40,000 lives, but 50,000 people are going to die because of all of those other issues. Is it really worth it? I mean, everybody, and that's kind of the argument that I got a little bit on Facebook, because somebody was just like, just lock down, just stay at home. And it's like, we're not focusing on the impacts that the lockdown is having on us.
Yeah, that is so true. I totally agree with that too. That could be worse.
Exactly.
That could actually be worse.
I think to correlate the two, it's kind of like, look, nobody's saying, don't, like you said, like you didn't say, don't social distance, don't whatever. But I think at the same time, what we might be dealing with in a sense is it's Like we're getting in our own way. Like in other words, look, I mean, take it seriously, take it whatever, but don't take it to the point where you're actually putting too much stress on yourself. Just kind of behave
Yeah,
normally and kind of still don't prevent it from making you not be yourself. Like,
exactly. Yes, totally. Yes. Yeah, you can't, because that's where the worry comes in. That's where the anxiety comes in. And that's where people start, have that fear
do,
and they make themselves sick.
do you have any like recommendation? Like in other words, when you say meditate and stuff like that, like where would you direct someone? Like I don't want you to be given too much information because I want people to want to be coached by you, let's say. But
Hmm.
if you had to say to just a random person, like, yo, check this YouTube thing out, or check out this CD that I meditate to, or you know what I mean? Like, do you
Yeah.
have any recommendations like that?
Yeah. So for me, like, I mean, I tried everything. I tried every kind of meditation tape, video, and the best, I'm all about simple. I like things that are easy, simple. I don't want anything complicated that's going to make it hard for me. Honestly, it's just like putting some headphones on, finding an app that's like a fan app or a noise app, and literally just like closing my eyes, taking some deep breaths, because breathing is like really important, and you can breathe throughout your whole day. You should always be taking deep breaths throughout your day, and just like give myself 20 minutes. Maybe I do hour meditations, but that's where like I've just worked my way up to like
Yeah.
hour meditations that are, I consider, pretty powerful, and have totally shifted my life. But in the beginning, I would just close my eyes, I put some headphones on, and I would just kind of, in a way, train myself not to think so much. Because again, those thoughts come in and you're like, you find yourself, oh my God, I got to go to the food store. I got to get this, I got to get that. And I'm like, what the hell? I just sat here for 20 minutes and I
Hmm.
thought the whole time. And
Could you
that's going to happen
could you
in
do
the
it with
beginning.
music, or do you have to be like does that interfere?
Okay, so I feel like sometimes I notice with music, a lot of those things in the beginning, I noticed that they would affect me in a certain way. Like they would trigger me, certain songs. So actually stepped away and I like music, but I stepped away from it for a while because like certain songs would trigger me in certain ways. But you can listen to, like, there's all kinds of meditation music. It's more sounds and stuff like that. But eventually, yeah, I think that is a part of meditating. Music is a part of meditating. Even like just me cleaning my house is meditating, because you're not really thinking. You're focused on what you're doing, and you're very present when you're doing that. So there's other forms of meditation, but I still feel like you should always take that time, whether it be 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, just that a day, to just shut your brain off and train yourself to shut your brain off, because it's hard in the beginning and you can't get mad at yourself. Who cares if you sat there for 20 minutes and you thought the whole time, oh well, tomorrow's another day. Like, don't be hard on yourself, because each day gets easier. And that's who we are as humans. We think, we're constantly thinking. So that's part of rewiring your brain, I guess you could say, to not think so much.
So are you just like sitting there? Because I think I'm just speaking of myself personally. Whenever I think of meditation, I feel like I'm just picturing somebody. Yes, yes,
No,
exactly. With holding the
I
finger, the
did not
hands
ever
up,
do that. I
and
mean, I may have did it once or twice, but no, I honestly, to be honest, in the beginning, now I would meditate like crazy in the beginning. I would fall asleep a lot. So like I was meditating all day because I just was like, I need to like change who I am, blah, blah, blah. So I would like meditate and then fall asleep, and that's okay too. So like I would sit there for like a half an hour and I'd be like, I think I might have slept for maybe 25 minutes of that meditation, but that's okay. Like that's part of meditating.
Well, then I've
So
meditated a lot during quarantine.
right, so many
Yeah.
people don't
I
even
do a
realize,
lot of meditating. I
they
didn't
don't
know
even
it.
realize. But when your
yes,
intention is meditating, it's a little bit different,
Yeah.
but yeah, so like you get better
Yeah.
at it. It's a muscle. It really is a muscle. Like, and breathing is part of that. Like you're raising your energy and then you're releasing that energy. So like breathing, you want to do the breathing part for at least, I say, like I have this thing on my Facebook actually, and it's in my program. It's like a quick little system. I call it the 10-10-10. So like you do it for 10 minutes, you take 10 deep breaths and you hold them for 10 seconds. So you hold the breath for 10 seconds. And that's pretty powerful, and it's great for like a beginner. And if you can't hold your breath for 10 seconds, don't. I'm not telling people to like pass out because they're, meditating, especially if they're by themselves. But Do
I
it
love how you
personally.
had to cover yourself there. Just
Yeah, I don't want to,
lawsuits.
sign a waiver
Yeah.
before you just do these meditations or
But-
sit on your bed.
By the way, when I'm late for work from now on, I'm going to say I over meditated.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
be like, that's fine.
Yeah.
You're a new you now.
we actually, so it's funny that you mentioned the 10-10-10 rule, because we have a rule on layman's terms, the 6-6-6 rule.
Okay.
No, well,
Now I don't. Now
Hey,
I don't. Yeah.
hey.
So like
I not know what
I
that
don't.
is.
Well, here's the. Well, we're going to take a woman's perspective and tell me how accurate this is. So the 6-6-6 rule was women only like guys that are 6 feet tall, 6 inches below the waist, and 6 figures in the bank account. Is that an accurate statement, or is that?
That's pretty accurate for most women.
Yes. See, that's what I'm
mean,
talking about. Like, chicks want to date the devil. Like, that's exactly that's exactly
the devil? Okay, yeah.
exactly.
I would say yes to that.
That's the devil, Tom.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what they're looking for.
Well, Tom, let me ask you this. Let's get away from that topic for a second. No, but like, do you take time to yourself? Like actual time to yourself like that? I don't.
Are you asking me or Kira?
You.
Well, I have a lot of time by myself. And
But no. But I mean, like, do you take time? Like, do you actually? I have a lot of time by myself too, but I don't like sit in a chair in a corner and kind of just focus on,
Nothing.
I don't do that ever.
No, my mind is constantly racing.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, I was walking the dog today and I'm thinking about, Facebook and political posts and then I'm going deeper into why I feel the need to comment on that.
It's the spiral. You did yourself in that thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's just like this downward spiral. And then I'm like, wait. And then I'm like, wait, was I wrong? Why did I even comment? Like, this is just ridiculous. So I'm constantly
and that, not for nothing, not to cut you off, but that's the old me. I was such an overthinker. I would be up all night thinking. I wouldn't even sleep, and I'd be like, I got to do this, I got to do that, and I don't ever do that. Like I sleep fine. Now doing something like this today, normally the old me, first of all, I wouldn't do it. The old me wouldn't have done this ever.
Yeah.
And I would have thought about it all day long. I wrote up a few things. I didn't even look at it once. What I wrote, it was just, I let it flow. I just live in the moment so much more now. And it's just, you don't do that anymore when you start training your mind not to think so much,
Well, when you go ahead, Tom, I'm sorry.
No, so it's obviously it's a very natural human emotion a reaction to have all these different emotions. So when you get to the state of like where you're saying you're at and where you've gotten to, do people like say to you like, don't you fucking feel anything?
Well, I felt everything.
You heartless.
Yeah, like
that's what's so bad, because I felt everything, and I would always consider myself very empathetic, whatever that word is. Like I would feel other people's emotions, and you get to a point where you do care about other people and you want to help them, but you can only help people that want to be helped too. So it's not like I don't care or I don't care about other people. I truly care, because that's what I want to do. I want to help people not worry so much, know that you can help yourself. Like people that I meet, like to say a friend of mine that's in a bad relationship, I look at this person and I'm like, I know that you can get out of this. I know you have the power to do it, but I can't help her unless she wants the help. You have to be able to, that's another thing. Like I can't help anyone unless they really want the guidance and my assistance to help them. I've tried with people and I've gotten, but this isn't fair. Why is this happening to me? And I'm trying to teach them that you have to learn to let that go and let certain things go and be okay at where you're at and not react. And they would just keep screaming at me. So like in the beginning, it was like, I couldn't help people because they just didn't want that help. Like you have to be like, I'm ready to change my life and I'm ready to listen to you no matter what it takes. Otherwise, I can't help you.
Well, I have this thing with time, right? So to be, since you seem like somebody who understands this stuff clearly, what happened with me that changed me, but the weirdest part is you would think that what I'm about to say means like it was traumatic or whatever. But so my father passed away, right? And there was nothing to it. It's not like this happened and it was traumatic. But when my dad passed away, these things that I used to care about too much kind of just went away. And sometimes when I talk to people and they want to know like why I am like they're looking for advice. And the thing that I can't explain is I tell these people like, look, I don't know how to tell you to understand this because for me, I was lucky in a sense that it just went away. But I guess when you were saying about like a friend and being empathetic and whatever, something in me just doesn't, I became very concerned with time. So I thought about relationships that I had where I thought like if I could get anything back in my life, it would be those like hours of long conversations of like, I didn't mean that, or, like these arguments that take up time. And to go into what we're talking about, they take away from the moment. Like, in other words, you're trying to go to a wedding, but instead you're fighting for 2 hours about what you got to wear. And
Yes.
so, you get what I'm saying?
Oh, the little things.
Well, so what started to happen with me was I started to feel like you're saying, like, am I heartless because I'm watching some girl crying over a boyfriend and everybody's making a show of it. And I'm the only one that's like, look, she's going to fucking do this tomorrow. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
But I'll also say it to her in the best way I can. I'm not like heartless. But the thing is once I see that this has become part of the cycle for you, like you run and do the same thing and then you come back and cry and everybody cares and then you go back and do the same thing. It's not that I don't have time for it or that I'm like so above it. It's like my brain just really doesn't care.
No, it's true. And you know what's funny about what you're saying? Like, even with my kids, I have 3 kids. I had to learn that they have their own journey and their own path. I can't be there constantly trying to, like, I was never that kind of parent anyway. Like, I didn't try to control my kids, and you just got to let them learn and grow also. I can be the best example for them, and I can encourage them and try to make, I mean, I don't want to, talk too much about my kids or get into their personal lives because they're older, but they have things and they have, their own issues. And for me, it's like, I have to let them learn and grow too. I can't, where they're my kids. Like, you think like, oh my God, what kind of parent are you? Do you not care about your kids? No, I love my kids and I want to be the best, role model for them. But I am not going to, be their life. Like, this is their life. Like, I'm not going to tell them what they have to do and what they shouldn't do. They have to learn and grow on their own, like, so I totally get that with people think like you're heartless, and no, I'm not heartless, but everybody has their own journey. This is mine.
I've also became really comfortable with, like, I guess one thing that's definitely helped me in relationships too is I became very comfortable with myself, not comfortable, but okay with myself, like we talked about. And I stopped, that fear of like someone wants to leave me has left me,
that's powerful.
Yeah. And
so
so
let that go.
Go ahead, Tom.
Because then you'll attract more to yourself.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
Well, I've also noticed that like look, it sounds like you're saying you're playing a game or something, but it's like, it's like it, the thing is, and I've tried to explain this to people and relationships before. Even when you're in the relationship, you look like you're trying to be a player in a sense when you're having these discussions, but in the sense of like saying to somebody like, look, I really like, I'm like, I guess maybe I went on a weird path there, but basically what happens is it's like, I'm standing there and I'm just not gonna get emotional because that's not in there. It's not, there's no, you know what I mean?
You're not going to fake it.
Yeah. And,
like
and
what?
like you want me to come over there and to go, what's wrong or whatever. And like, it's not
you're
that
not going to play the game.
But I'm also not trying to not play the game. That's the thing, is you start to look like you're being a player or something, like you don't care or you don't whatever. And
no,
it's like,
I get that.
It's like, I wish there's been times where I wished that I could just fake it for a moment just to fucking get through the moment. And I can't.
It's too much energy to do that.
Yeah. It's anymore. Like a waste.
You don't want to give your energy away like that. That's pretty much what I talk about even in my program. Like, don't give your energy away to that stuff. Like, when people do that to me, like if someone comes and they're in a negative mood and they come into work and they kind of know not to come to me now because I just don't play that game anymore. But when they do, I kind of just like walk away. I won't feed into it. I don't feed into drama. I never really was that kind of girl, but now I'm 100% not that girl, because even in the beginning of this, of my journey, I was complaining. Like, I thought that I was like, I'm positive, I'm this, I'm that. And I realized I would come home every day and complain about somebody at work. Every day. It was like, oh my God, this person did that. This person did that. I never do that now.
I still do that.
Yeah, but I used to too. Like, I always did it. But the more I meditated and the more I trained my brain not to react to those things anymore, like I said, everything shifted around me. People were exiting my life that just couldn't reach my level anymore, or they will catch up with you. So it's like, it's actually pretty amazing. Like, cause like I said, I believe in the law of attraction. It's so accurate. Like, people say life ain't fair. Life's very freaking fair. The law of attraction will prove to that. The life is very fair, because however you are is whatever you're going to get back to you. And that is with everything around you also. So, I mean,
yeah. And to go back to something you said, Danny, and I'll mention like two different things in relationships. The two relationships that meant the most to me in my life, I was a fucking pussy. Like, my happiness was based on them. So like, if it wasn't working out, like, I was like quivering, like, and I was like doing everything I could to make them happy or to make the relationship work. And I wasn't focusing on myself. And, you know, if that person didn't text me back, I was like upset, and I'd be like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on? And like, I'd be hanging by my phone. And now I've gotten to the point where like, I look back on that and I'm like, no wonder why. Cause you ask yourself, like,
it's like an insecurity that you're expressing, and people pick up on that.
Like, I was basing my happiness off of their acceptance of me.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if I can get this person to love me, then I will be worth more. You know what I mean?
And that's,
but you don't realize how common that is. It's so common.
Tom, that's the thing that I will say that I wish I could teach it to people, but for some reason I don't even know how they correlate. But when my dad died, I was exactly that guy. And when my dad passed away, I just never was that guy again, but I don't even correlate it to that. It's just some kind of mechanism in my head just went away. I'm not trying to say this thing happened and so, you know, this happened. I think that just I saw life differently. Like, it has nothing to do with the experience of my dad. It's just I realized, like, I mean, I watched a guy die. You know what I mean? Like, I not like traumatically, but I mean, I sat in a room with him while he died. And so I just think that, like, things just some type of way I saw the world changed. And when you're saying, Tom, about like people say that's like a validation, like you're looking for validation. But another thing that I think, and Kira, you can, you know, correct me or whatever, is when I was saying that thing about like being yourself, and like when you're going to the wedding and you're trying to fit in, I think what starts to happen is you're constantly trying to like shed these pieces of yourself to please another person. And then when they leave, when they're gone, you are standing there as an imposter. Like, you are not yourself anymore, and you've relied so much on this other person that you're just alone. You're just nothing, you know?
Yes, that's the thing. We're always looking for, like, in relationships is a perfect example. It's like we get attached. So we get attached to that person, and we're always like, it's that comfort, and they're making us feel good about ourselves, and they love us, and they tell us we're this, and they tell us we're that. And then they one day say, you know, I'm done. I don't really want to be in this relationship anymore. And we're in a little corner crying our eyes out because we lost everything. We think we lost everything.
But I think also too, it's like, and you're wearing the shirt that you never would have wore, but they told you to wear that shirt, and you know what I mean? So in other words, you're not even yourself.
You're not. Yes. And we do it. And I mean, geez, like, we all do it. I don't care if you meditate or not. Like, those tendencies are going to happen. You know, you're going to still go back to those old habits, but the more we're aware of it, the less we'll do it. And the better we'll get at expanding our mind. And
But
Right.
it's
more
tough. It
old
is
than-
tough though. This kind of stuff is
It
like,
is tough. It
yeah.
is.
It's
Totally.
mental.
Like, and
It's mental gymnastics. I mean,
it is.
you're
It's strengthening the brain, and it's rewiring the brain. When you're so, like, humans are so, like, habitual. Like, we pick up those habits, and they are who we are. So how do you break free from who you think, this is who I think I am? You know, when really it's not who you are. It's not who you are at all. Like, there's so much more.
Well,
There's so much more.
and I think it's the one thing that makes sense when people say, like, be true to yourself or whatever. And I think, like, there are things that you're supposed to do. Like, I'm not talking about living life like the Big Lebowski, you know what I mean? But at the same time, if you just constantly be true to yourself, you'll see that these people ain't going anywhere. Like, if somebody's telling you to cut your hair and you're just like, no, I guess what I'm getting at is, when we're talking about that girlfriend leaving you or whatever, it's like, if you cut your hair the way she liked and then she's gone, there you are with this
With
haircut.
this stupid haircut that you
Yeah.
hate.
And so
Yeah.
it's like, if they leave you and you never did anything to, like, of course you should buy your girlfriend flowers once in a while and show her that you care, blah, blah,
But that's
blah.
a great way. What you just said, it, like, is so, like, to me, I really, like, that's really powerful. Like, okay, you cut your hair for this girl and she said, peace out. And now you're stuck with this horrible haircut.
Yeah.
That's what we do. Like, we do things to please other people, you know, like, that's perfect. And I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of the old sayings relate to everything that I say. Like, I'm like, oh, my mom used to say that, toughen up, you know, like, stop being a baby. And I look back and I think, oh my God, she was so mean, but you know what? She that meant something to me today.
Well, I have a theory that, like, we saw, like, here's a perfect example. You know, when people tell you when you're younger, you got to learn to love yourself, right? And when you're younger, you're like, I do love myself. Like, you look at that like as if somebody's telling you you're all emotionally fucked up and you don't care about yourself or something.
Yeah.
And so you're always waving that shit off. And then when you're older, you look back at that same saying, and what they meant was, like, do shit you love. Like,
Yes.
entertain
Be
yourself
you.
with things you love. I think the best way it was ever told to me was, like, look at these things like fuel. Like, the same way you eat food to stay alive, you need to do a podcast or do theater or do these things that you love. And I think, since we're on relationships, I think the one time that I never lived by it when I first noticed it, but when I was in that hole of just always looking for validation through a woman, and like Tommy said, you know, then you're sitting there waiting for her to text you back, and you're fucking, you know, shaking because you're so fucked up about it. And when I started to go to film school, I was out shooting something with my class. And when I got back, like, this girlfriend who had me going crazy at the time about her not texting me, not calling me, all that kind of stuff, I got back to my car where I left my phone just because I didn't bring it with me. And there was like 10 text messages, and she was calling me crying. It was a totally different flip on her.
Isn't that something?
And I also realized I didn't care for the first time because I was doing something that I loved.
Yeah. Right.
You know, and I never lived by it from that moment on. I kind of live by it now.
Because you were using her in that time.
And I think this also goes back to what I said earlier about when you acknowledge a problem. It's like, later on, when things like that would happen, I would be able to say to myself, you need to do, like, I understood the problem. I didn't change the behavior, but there was also something freeing in understanding why I was panicking, looking at the phone, waiting for the text, because I knew that what I was doing was my own fault in a sense. And I was able to be okay with that.
Exactly. Because we do it to ourselves in the end. But I feel like that's so true though. We seek for that. And the fact that you were able to recognize that, like, okay, so I'm having fun. I didn't care. Now I know everything's okay. I feel like relationships teach you a lot about yourself. You know, like, they really it's such a reflection of where you are at in your life. And you think to yourself, like, you get mad at someone for not texting you, like, why didn't you text me, or why didn't you text me back? And then you realize that, like, oh, well, what do you mean? Well, if you're going to be like that, I don't want to be with you. Like, and then you step back and you're like, why did I why did I even get like that with this person? Why? I don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that person that needs that kind of attention. Why do I need that attention? What inside of me is missing that I need this person to constantly be texting me and let me know everything's okay and that I'm this and I'm that? And that's a sense of not being whole. That's something inside of us that's missing.
I think it's also, go ahead, Tom.
No, well, I'm just gonna, because you mentioned about your father passing, and when my dad died a little over a year ago, once that happened, I was actually able to make that correlation between the relationships that I had and kind of letting go, because I recognized once he passed, I wasn't going to be able to gain that acceptance from him any longer. Like there was nothing that I could ever do to change it at this point. And from going back to it as a child and all the times where, the phone rang when he was supposed to pick me up on a Friday and said, I'm not going to make it. And I remember as a kid being devastated by, that happening, it happened quite often. And I think that kind of like set the standard for maybe some self-esteem issues for me. And, and then again, like fast forward into relationships. And then you have that when they don't want to spend time with you or they're doing this, you're like, well, wait, what is it? Like, what's going on with me? Why don't you want to be with me? You know what I mean? So for me, it's like, once my father died, like, it just kind of snapped. Like, I'm like, there's nothing I can do now for that acceptance. So like, what am I? And like, and not only that, it's the whole concept of like, you were talking about time. It just was another perspective on like, okay, how much time do I have left on this earth to like live to please other people? You know what I mean?
Well, Tom, I also left out what you just said because I didn't think it was relevant, but you put it in a different way. And it's funny that we never had this discussion, but when my dad passed, because I don't know, because I didn't have a dad that was around, you know what I mean? And you didn't either, right? So the thing is this is what's so scary is I don't 100% know how to correlate what it was when he passed away that made me change. But one major thought that I had was, I mean, I had a good relationship with my dad. I think you did too, even though they weren't always there. And to me, my dad was, and I really feel this way. I mean, he was great. It wasn't just me idolizing my dad. I mean, he was the funniest dude ever. And he was, if it came down to like, say, acting or doing stuff like this, like he was the biggest, like he was the guy where you really couldn't please. He wasn't mean because he was supportive, but like he was better than all those things. And I felt like it wasn't that he was nothing but supportive and showed love. But when he passed away, I felt like the only guy I've been trying to please is gone. So I got nobody else to really care about.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And to one other thing about when you mentioned about time, I know for me, especially recently, now turning 40, the concept of time to me is just overwhelming because now I'm constantly thinking, okay, now I'm 40, like what should I have? Like imagine if I was to buy a house today and it takes me 30 years to pay off. I'm going to be 70 years old. If I were to get married or if I get in a relationship and she wants to have kids, like if I have kids now, how would that work? All of these different things, that time now for me is something that really kind of like it's very uneasy to accept time.
You need to meditate.
Yeah.
You won't worry about those things.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess that's what I need to do.
You'll live in the moment and it'll just all happen the way it's supposed to.
I mean, and this is where like it sounds great in theory.
Sounds great, I know.
Well, Tom, when you say the thing of time, right? What us being the same age, here's my theory on time. Okay, when you're 10 and someone says you're gonna live till you're 80, I have a theory that what happens with you mentally is you always double the time, right? So if I'm 10 and someone says you're gonna live till you're 80. You look at the life where you're at now, you try and imagine what it feels like to have lived as long as you lived, and then you times it by 8, okay? And then when you're 20, somebody says 80, and you're like, I got 4 lifetimes left to live. And then when you're 30 and especially 40, you're like, I got one more lifetime. Like, you know what I mean? You're always kind of doubling where you're at to the future. And it condenses it more and more. But at the same time, I also had this thing of when I was 10, someone would say, oh, you know, when I was 20, and I think we discussed this on here, it's like you want to learn the guitar. And then you go like, that's going to take fucking 10 years to like, you start looking at people you know that have mastered it. You're like, that guy started playing when he was 5 and he's 20 now and he's good.
Right.
When you get 40, you also accept that time more, or maybe you're like, you know, it sounds more like living in the moment. So like, I've really come to understand more about the brick by brick thing, like you said, Tom, where it's like, well, you got to start now. Like now I'm also, by doubling up that time, I realize like if I want to play the guitar, I have to fucking start now. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because there is no 8 times my lifespan right now. I have to do it now. And I think that that's a good thing that happens with age, but you know, one thing you can never get back is time. So you wish you were 20 when you started to think like this, but I guess that's just life too, you know?
Have you started playing the guitar or practicing?
Well, this is my playing the guitar. You know what I mean?
Okay, I get you.
And there are things like that. Like, no, okay, I would like to play the guitar. No, I haven't started trying, but I mean, there are things in my life, you know, that I am doing that are kind of more important than the guitar, but I'm going to get there. Yeah.
You will. Like I said, that's an intention. And if you have that intention and you're constantly thinking about it and you know you're going to do it, you'll get there. It's almost like your energy's got to get to that level.
Yeah, I want to start meditating. I want to try meditate. I'm not meditating. I'm going to try like what'd you say, your 10-10-10 rule or something?
Try that. Yes. Go on my Facebook page and look it up, and then we'll get back together in a couple months and we'll see where you guys are
at.
Definitely.
Definitely.
So Kira, is there any information that you want to, or is there any last comments maybe you want to make to people, or?
For me, honestly, the biggest thing is I just want people to realize the power of meditation. And I know it sounds repetitive, but that's where it all starts. That's where you're going to see changes in your life, starting with just, you know, your mental health. You know, yes, you're going to get more positive and be happier. Not all the time. I mean, we're still human and we're still interacting with people and things that, you know, you're not going to be like I always wanted people to realize you're not going to be jumping up and down, smiling every day. Like we're still living as humans, but you're just going to be healthier. You're going to be healthier. You're not going to get sick as much. I mean, there's science behind this too. It's not just me just saying, I know for a fact because I don't ever get sick anymore, but there's science behind meditation. You're just lighter. You're not so heavy. You don't wind up with that negative, because negative energies make you wound up. You feel sick. You're worrying. I mean, we all know that. So for me, that's my number one thing is just start meditating. Just calm your mind for at least 20 minutes every day. Give that time to yourself. You deserve it. You're worth it. 20 minutes, quiet your mind. That's it. Take some deep breaths with it.
Yeah.
Now, do you have any, you know, is there an audio book where obviously on Amazon, people can find your book?
We don't read the books.
Yeah. So I you know, it's so funny. I write, this is the funniest thing about me. I write books like crazy. I already have written 4, but this is the first one that's out, and I do not read. I do not like to read.
Well, you know,
I love audio.
Well, let me ask you a question. You know, which is a little not related, but clearly related. If you are you someone who writes, or did you have to like really find some discipline to write this book?
I didn't need no discipline to write these books at
really?
all. They flowed out of me. And
nice.
I don't want to say like, you know, there was some higher power that came, because people are like, what the hell are you talking about? But I am obsessed with this information. So I did educate myself in this stuff, and I think it helped me so much. So every day, I will not stop researching. I will not stop trying to improve. So for me, it was easy, but I had the information. So yeah, I mean, higher power, I don't know. Maybe that was just me because I'm learning it, but it was very easy for me to write.
Well, maybe you just got out of your own way and then let it flow.
Yeah. Like I always like to write. So.
Well, one thing I loved, I'll say this is last, and you know, I'll stop getting in there, but one thing I loved was I read the little part where it says, my story gives the most updated and accurate information about intuition, but told in a way that anyone can understand it. And I thought that's perfect for us. That's
Yes, 'cause
perfect
that's me.
for our show.
Yes.
And anyone, a couple of my friends that read it said, oh my God, this is such an easy read. Like, I need easy, because if it's going to be complicated or if it's going to get too much for me, I'm going to close that book and I am not going to read it, or I'm not going to listen.
And what's the name? Did you say the name of the book?
So the name is Intuition is Simple. And I don't know if you can see it on here, but that's the book.
There you go. Yeah, yeah.
Okay? And as of today, I think you can actually just Google it. So you can Google Intuition is Simple, and it'll come up on where you can order it and where you can find it in different ways that you can order it through ebook and all that. So
I Googled it and it was the first thing that came up.
Yeah. So that's pretty exciting. I was excited to see that.
Well, that's really cool too. I mean, honestly, I'll also commend you, because I think that's a really cool thing that you wrote a book. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And we talk about, like, we don't read the books around here.
Yeah.
And you know, our name, layman's terms, and we like it to lay it out as simple as possible.
But we recommend you read books. We recommend that you read books. We admit that it's a flaw.
Especially Kira's. We recommend that.
Yeah.
Number one.
And Kira, do me a favor. I sent you the email I sent you. Just send me any information you want me to post with this video.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And I'll post this on my page too. I have a lot of people that would love to hear it.
Cool. So. We'd appreciate it a lot, for real.
Definitely.
And it was, and I think that me and Tommy should try to incorporate this 10-10-10 rule in our lives.
Yes.
And then we should have you back on, and we should discuss if our lives were any different, any better.
I like that. And
what our journey was.
I can guarantee you that your life will change
I believe.
I'll give it, like, let's say, what do we say? Like 3 months?
Yeah, right after lockdown.
Okay. Yeah. I bet things are going to change in your lives, but you got to be consistent.
All right. Well, it's really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you guys too.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Great. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm going to end you, Kira. It's very nice to meet you, for real.
Nice
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
You too.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Let me figure this out.
Should I close first?
Yeah, I guess close out.
I'll leave.
All right. I'll see you, Kira.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Tom, I love you. Did you have fun? I had a great time. Kira was a great guest. All right. I love you. I love you, Tom. Anything you want to say to anybody?
No, to be honest with you, I wasn't even aware that we were still recording. Like, we were just kind of shitting. But
was that wrong? Want me to cut all that out?
No, I would just, just listen to it, make sure we didn't say anything retarded.
Yeah. All right, dude. Well, it was good to talk to you. It was nice to meet Kira. And guys, remember, hit like, hit subscribe. Make sure you hit us up. And we love feedback. So email us, text us, message us, whatever. We love it.
Like, share, comment, all
the good stuff. All right, Tommy. See you guys.
All right, bye-bye.